today we can take the opportunity to remember all of those who lost their lives in the Sri Lankan Civil War, but particularly in the final bloody stages of the war where an estimated 40,000 people were killed as a result of the indiscriminate shelling. Now, the Sri Lankan Civil War is just another devastating example of brutality within humanity, and yet another example of where a minority group has been unjustly targeted and brutally persecuted by a state force. We've heard about so many of these across the world, but the persecution of the Tamil people is a subject and a campaign that does not receive the recognition that it deserves internationally. So I'm very pleased to see so many of you here today. Now, although the Civil War ended over a decade ago, we're still seeing instances of clear prejudice and persecution of Tamil people within Sri Lanka, and the government continue to keep a heavy military presence in Tamil homelands in the north and the east of the island, and they continue to occupy Tamil land, and they persist with the use of the Prevention of Terrorism Act, which allows for the arbitrary detention of Tamils without trial. And I very much agree with the speaker just before me. The UK goes around the world preaching human rights and saying that we stand for human rights, and we should absolutely not be trading with a country that will continue to treat its own people this way. And it's unfortunate that this prejudice will likely continue until the international community takes a stand and actually recognising the allegations of torture and persecution and genocide, and takes steps to secure accountability and justice and for the violence perpetrated against the Tamil community. And the UK government should be no exception to that. Now, I was really pleased to recently meet with the Tamil community who've rebuilt their homes in Streatham and in South London. There are Tamils in South London. I hope some of them are here today, and it's a very important community in South London. And they've come to South London and other parts after fleeing persecution in Sri Lanka. It was really harrowing to hear the horrific treatment that some of them were subjected to at the hands of the Sri Lankan military. And an account that's been experienced by far too many people who've been forced to flee their home country through fear of persecution. But unfortunately, that is the reality for Sri Lankan Tamils, and yet almost 13 years since the end of the Civil War, and despite the catalogue of evidence of human rights abuses that have been submitted to the government, we're yet to see any proper steps being taken to investigate or act on them, and that's something that we all need to work together to change. Now, it's my view that to stand by and do nothing about the atrocities committed in the past is, at best, a denial of justice for those who suffered under persecution, and at worst, a tacit acceptance of these atrocities. Now, we can't continue to say that we advocate for human rights if we fail to acknowledge and seek justice for these human rights abuses. In Labour's 2019 manifesto, that was when I was first elected to Parliament, we promised in that manifesto to work through the UN and the Commonwealth to insist on the protection of human rights for Sri Lanka's minority Tamil and Muslim communities. And I stand by that promise, and will always be on the side of the oppressed and on the side of groups who are having their human rights violated. So I'm really, really pleased to be here today and to continue to advocate for justice for Sri Lanka's Tamil community. And I look forward to working with you, other members of Parliament, and the wider Tamil community to make sure that we secure this. Thank you very much.